Good afternoon on this dreary Wednesday. At least it's dreary where I currently am, and probably for good reason. The world at large is in a very dreary state of affairs. As I've previously noted, war in general traditionally has been a so-called good thing. Perhaps not for the soldiers, for their friends, family, or the public in general, but for the powers that be, as it provides a very good diversion from the problems at home, wherever home may be for you and or for me, and certainly a good thing for the economy. But today, I noticed that the United States stock market was taking a deep dive. And that doesn't bode for the world stage, bode well rather for the world stage. While this is not, let me repeat, not a typical trend during wartime, I can certainly understand perhaps why. Maybe the stock market sees the imminent freight train coming. As I noted yesterday, the world at large is literally burning and our collective leaders fiddling. In fact, the United States, a preeminent nation that was once revered as the guarantor of law and order, if you will, and the possible purveyor of peace across the globe, recently sent their least capable leader at large to handle serious matters, very serious matters in the Middle East, when he can't even handle, dare I say, less serious matters back at home. Yet he was seen as the most fit person to attempt to salvage other nations while his own nation continues to crumble at his feet and at his hands. The disaster across the world stage, as I see it, is primarily a problem of an administration that has lost respect and has made the greatest country in the world the laughingstock. It is the byproduct of an illegitimate administration and illegitimate policies, full of faux pas and foibles. As noted on Fox News, the United States has always been a strong supporter of Israel and the Jewish people. Yet, past presidents have never attempted to pay a visit when there is a hot war in the Middle East. They have let Israel handle their own. Yet, this president wanted to set a precedent by deploying himself to a war zone in the Middle East when he can't string two sentences coherently together to attempt to articulate and negotiate perhaps a ceasefire or some other alternative to the death, destruction, and devastation that is currently plaguing the region and the people therein, Jew and Palestinian alike. Unfortunately, he is not taken seriously, and in my opinion, again, is significantly cognitively compromised. And while my heart does legitimately go out to him on a personal level, I don't think that based on all of the above, he'll accomplish much. Not much besides, well, turning a hot war into a hot mess. And perhaps the stock market is reflecting the foreseeable future and the imminent obvious. Quick afterthought. Let me just say up front that I personally am not, let me reiterate that, not against the Palestinian people. Now, I'm not talking about the radicals, the terrorists, the lunatic fringe, and certainly not the supporters of all of the aforementioned. I'm talking about the normal, hardworking, law-abiding citizens who reside in Palestine and by choice, birth, culture, and or heritage are considered and consider themselves Palestinian. I personally have nothing against them specifically. I do, however, find myself repeatedly shaking my head, even though as someone who grew up in New York and thought that nothing could shock me, find myself, as I said, perpetually shaking my head at those who show support for the barbarians who continue to enforce their agenda and conduct themselves in satanic manners against women, children, and average citizens. I especially see this among young, coddled, often over entitled and indoctrinated enfants terribles, or terrible children, with the emphasis on the word children. After all, let's be honest. How many of these young college kids who are misguided by their professors today have worked or are working for their education or indoctrination instead of waiting for mommy and daddy, or better yet, the government, to foot the bill? Something that was virtually unheard of in my generation and past generations. In fact, we were taught if you wanted something good, you had to go out and work for it. But I digress. I see a host of spoiled brats who continue to enjoy the fruits of our hard work and the privileges of the Western world, a world that they came to escape oppression, throwing their support behind people who would want to rob them. Yes, rob even them of their rights and God-given freedoms. God-given freedoms and rights that they escaped other countries to enjoy. It behooves me beyond belief that young adults, especially women from nations where females are often oppressed and deprived of the ability to achieve the same stature and status as they do in North America and other countries, and who would be considered second-class citizens, forced to cover their faces and hair, would support the agenda and ideology of their obvious oppressors, yet at the same token continue to drive cars, have cell phones, maybe wear makeup, cover only their hair rather than their full face, and, like the members of the squad, achieve positions of prominence and power and continue to enjoy the luxuries and perks that they may very well have been deprived of if they had remained in the depraved nations that they continue to support. The nations that are exemplifying the depravity of those who seek to enslave whoever they can, be it Israeli or their own citizens. I think that these people, including members of the squad, before being given the powers to protest, should perhaps be mandated to grow up and develop a much more well-informed understanding of the real world and how it truly works. Last but not least, if they are so enamored by the ideas, agenda, and ideology of those who are barbarians, then I suggest one of two things. Either those who already reside there or who herald from there, stay there. And for those who are all in, I suggest they pack up and move there, because we do not want them here. Goodbye, good riddance, and don't let the door smack you in the ass.